Do you see light at the end of the tunnel here, or do we need to brace for a shutdown?
Well, Democrats are certainly trying to open that aperture of light as wide as possible, and the ball is really in Republicans' court. I am a senior member of the Appropriations Committee, have spent almost my whole career on the Appropriations Committee in Congress, and I've never seen a party like this Republican Party refuse to negotiate an end-of-year spending plan. I mean, when Democrats are at the table, we're ready to negotiate. There are only, as you know, Joe, 3 votes difference. This is the tightest margin that a majority has ever had. And of course, we have to sit down and negotiate a bipartisan spending plan. And what we are trying to do as Democrats is cancel those cuts, lower costs, and make sure we can save Americans' health care.
You're talking about something important at this time when a memo emerges from the White House. In the next 6 days, the House won't even be back until after the government is presumably shut down. What could happen if no one's talking? Is this over?
Joe, I hope that bolt of lightning really jolts Republicans to the negotiating table, because the fact that Donald Trump canceled a meeting with our 2 Democratic leaders, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, and refuses to even sit down and talk about the details of negotiating an end-of-year spending plan so we can lower people's costs, get rid of the cuts, and save Americans' health care, that's just unbelievable. And so on top of that, Donald Trump and Russ Vought have been salivating to be able to have their way with hiring and firing. Look, the reality is that we have to make sure that we negotiate a spending plan in a bipartisan way, and we also have to make sure that people don't lose their health care coverage. This is going to drive up health care costs, not just for people who have an Obamacare policy, but for everyone. You have healthcare insurance companies that are already signaling huge increases in premiums. Healthcare facilities closing, hospitals closing, healthcare clinics closing. Republicans need to come to the table, and they need to actually demonstrate that they care about whether or not the most important thing for Americans, which is whether they have their health, is something they're going to leave to chance. And I know as a breast cancer survivor, that would be unacceptable for me, and should be unacceptable for Republicans too.
Yeah. There's a thought that this could change in the Senate. Well, a couple things: that some Democrats might be very concerned about this memo, but more specifically, Democrats and Democratic senators in states like Virginia and Maryland, your colleagues like Tim Kaine, Mark Warner, who have a huge number of federal workers in their state, might not want to see Russ Vought get the steering wheel at this moment, and might vote yes to pass a clean CR. What are the odds of that happening? Is that a problem or a break in Democratic unity if it does?
So I think that Democratic senators and House members see that play by Russ Vought for what it is, and that is that they are just trying to use intimidation tactics and to distract the American people from the focus we need to have, which is making sure that we can pass a government funding bill that lowers people's costs, that eliminates the cuts, and that saves people's health care. And Americans want us to come together and work together in a bipartisan way to do that. Mike Johnson, Joe, he canceled the 2 days of voting that we have on Monday and Tuesday, the last 2 days of the fiscal year. They're not even bringing us back to town. Democrats will be there. We will be there ready to work on Monday. If the Republicans just shrug their shoulders and ignore this, then they are giving the middle finger to millions of people who need to make sure they can keep their health care costs affordable.
Wow. I can just see it now. You don't have to tell me, but I can see you all out on the steps of the House the moment the government shuts down next week, asking where Republicans are.
We're at the table, ready to negotiate.
Yeah. We just got a red headline on the terminal, Congresswoman. If you can stick with me for a moment on this. It's certainly a change of subject as we consider geopolitics for a moment. Following the meetings at the United Nations General Assembly and the incursions of airspace we've seen Russia provoke in Poland, Estonia, and some other countries on NATO's eastern flank, Europeans are now privately telling Russia, this is according to Bloomberg News, that they are ready to shoot down Russian jets that break into their airspace. Do you trust the administration holding NATO together at this moment?
Well, I certainly hope that Donald Trump lives up to our Article 5 NATO commitment to ensure that we come to the aid of our NATO allies. Russia has been an evil, bad actor. The dangerous games that they're playing, testing and pushing our European allies is an absolute outrage. Donald Trump keeps saying he's run out of patience. He absolutely better make sure, and Congress, I know, will insist, and in a bipartisan way, that we meet our Article 5 obligations to our NATO allies. They have been there for us. We need to be there for them. And Russia and Putin need to understand that you do not mess with the United States of America or our allies, or there will be consequences.
Well, he has been messing with them, which is pretty remarkable to think that we would treat something shy of an attack as a reason to shoot down jets. Does that unnecessarily escalate things if that happens?
Well, I mean, Putin is playing with fire. I mean, he is trying to goad our allies into conflict. And at the end of the day, he needs to withdraw his troops. He invaded Ukraine, a sovereign nation. The United States needs to continue our military support for Ukraine so that they can remain a sovereign nation and that they can get their territory back. If Donald Trump means what he says the other day, that he thinks that Ukraine can actually have all of their territory restored, they can do that as long as we provide that assistance. And we need to stand up and not just leave Ukraine twisting in the wind without our help.
Well, you do wonder if there's going to be a congressional answer to some of this if this type of tension continues, Congresswoman. Yeah,
a lot. And
well,
I know I hear from my constituents down here. I represent a large Ukrainian population who want to make sure that their country remains sovereign, and also who want to make sure that the free world remains united against the evil access that includes Russia.